This is Rabbi Aaron Boxt from Temple Beth Shalom in Ocala, Florida, back again with my podcast for this week. It's been a very busy week for me and really for my community. We've been dealing with the loss of one of our brightest smiles, Bruce Kaplan, but also um, as several of our congregants are returning um, to some sort of normalcy or still in the process of becoming fully healed, and in some cases still struggling to become healed. It's been tough and rough, but we have stuck together as a community in the last months and really shown up for each other, and that's really what this congregation is about. It's really about the community that we are, and you know we may not be very large, but we're mighty, and we stick up for each other, and we stick our necks out for each other. Which reminds me of something else that's been going on in the world, primarily in the United States, in the Northeast and on the West Coast of the United States. There have been these protests going on, pro-Palestinian um, groups, which are turning into really anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish protests. Some of which that have become quite not necessarily violent, but in some cases violent. We've seen clashes with police and clashes with other students, specifically Jewish students, who really are just trying to get from one point in the campus to another. Um, and this has really been a focus not just of mine, but also of my colleagues and friends throughout the United States and even in Israel, as we watch these horrific experiences occur on our college campuses. And really, it mostly has to do with misinformation. In my podcast before, I've talked about the misinformation that's out there, information that's shared from one group to another, which may have some semblance of truth, but really the truth is teeny compared to the message that's being completely washing away the truth, and what's coming out of it are these horrific non-factual things, words that we're hearing on from these organizations like genocide and Holocaust and Intifada and quotes such as "from the river to the sea" and this and that. These are really terrifying ideas, and for Jewish people, we look back when we hear the word Holocaust, when we hear the word genocide, we look back to the 1930s in Germany and in other parts of Europe. And we look at really what was an attempt by governments, specifically the German government, but they weren't alone, led, of course, by Hitler, to eradicate the world of Jews, the Jewish problem, as they called it. That's true genocide. That's true Holocaust. There is a point, an emphasis, and the point is the destruction of a people. That is true genocide. That is a Holocaust. That is not what's happening in the Middle East. What's happening in the Middle East is two groups of people, Israelis and non-Israelis, who, we can start with the Palestinians and we can say that the Israelis and the Palestinians are both at fault in the fact that we need to sit down and understand each other's story. We need to understand that, yes, the Jewish people have been in the land of Israel for 3,000 years. And we certainly are the only living indigenous people to the land of Israel. But that doesn't change the fact that there are Palestinians and other Arabs in the area that can trace their lineages, their family histories back 3, 4, 5 generations. And you can't say, well, that's only 300 or 400 years. That's a lot of time. So I think that there is a need for a dialogue in which we sit down and we say, I may not agree with you, but I'm going to listen to your dialogue. I'm going to listen to your history, and I'm going to validate it. And then when we sit down and have that conversation, then perhaps we can actually move towards something that's real. A peace that actually will sit and stay. But when you've got one people who is just trying to live their lives on a land, and then another people who are governed by people whose primary goal in life is the eradication of the Jews, of the nation of Israel, if that's the starting point, there's nowhere for us to go. We can't go backwards. And the only way we can move forward is to change that dialogue, change that message. I think for me personally, what has been the most devastating these past couple of weeks is seeing Jewish students on these campuses joining in and saying things, using words like genocide or intifada, or when a Jewish person says from the river to the sea, is it possible for them to understand what that means? It means that from the river to the sea means a destruction of all of the people, not just Jews, but primarily Jews, living from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. That's an annihilation of an entire country with millions and millions of residents. And like I said, they're not all Jews. So when a Jewish person says that, I have to believe, I want to believe that they're unaware of their history and they're unaware of the facts on the ground today. Now, I want to just take a step back and say, look, I am not in favor of killing of any people. And yes, I am well aware that there are almost 40, at this point, probably almost 40,000 Palestinians that have been killed in this war since October 7th. And I do hurt for them. And I do yearn for them, for their families to have some sort of peace, some sort of comfort. I do want this war to end so that both sides, the Palestinians and the Israelis, can live peacefully. And I know that seems like a pipe dream, and perhaps it is, but there are groups of people out there, individuals and organizations, that really are working towards understanding. We can't have peace. We can't have peace until we have understanding. And in order for us to have understanding, that requires us to sit down and listen. We don't have to embrace, we don't have to like, but we have to listen. Eventually, I hope we can get to a place where we can embrace and we can like and we can become true brothers and sisters with our Palestinian neighbors. But it starts at the top. And by the way, it also starts at the top of the Israeli politics. Right now, the government of Israel has all kinds of issues that they need to work through. And I think, and I know that I'm not alone in this, but I know that not everyone feels this way. I think Bibi Netanyahu is dangerous right now for the Jews, especially for the Israeli Jews, because I just don't think that he has the best interests for the Israeli people at heart. I think that this war has gone on too long already. And I think that cooler heads need to prevail on both sides of the coin, It's possible. It can happen. This Friday night, tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, in our service, I will be presenting an 18-minute TED Talk by an Israeli Jewish person and a Palestinian Muslim who share their stories of destruction with each other and talk about how they feel and how the other feels. And then they speak about the peace work that they do together. And I think that that's the start. We need to do a lot more of that. It's possible. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all deserve a right to live in a world that's peaceful, that allows us and our children to be successful. And if we can help each other do that, that's the way to do it. That's the answer. I wish everyone a wonderful rest of your week and a Shabbat Shalom. And I will be back next week with my podcast again.